My name's Aki Abiola. I am the founder of Hope93. It's a gallery in central London. There wasn't necessarily a defining moment. It was probably more of a sequence. So over the years, it had built up where I've loved so many things in the art world, but I also didn't like a lot of things in the art world. So I always found that me at times, but I know a lot of my friends and a lot of people around me felt very uncomfortable going into an art gallery for a few reasons, where they could either feel that they weren't really represented by the artists that they would go and see, or just a degree of uncomfort. I really wanted to understand why people walked into these kind of spaces and didn't grow. Instead, they kind of felt that they shrunk. So I wanted to create something where people would feel incredibly welcome. And hopefully I'm going to be able to do that. I felt, there was a definite space for this in the art world, a gallery where people would feel included, because it was almost unfair that, you look at the art world and you look at, why is there such little representation when it comes to female artists, for example, in institutions, or, why are there less minority artists around? So that was a really big driver. It's a degree of equity and fairness. How do I ensure that Hope93 is maintaining an inclusive atmosphere and community? I think we all have to try very hard, and I think the last thing that I would want is for anyone to feel like they're not welcome, and so I think about it all the time, and I really want to push both myself and people around me and take as much information and suggestions as I can. But I think the moment you have diversity in a place, whether it's me being the owner or the people that are part of the gallery, and then also the artists on the walls, I think the moment you're inclusive, I think that has a ripple effect and allows for inclusion as well. So I think if I keep doing things with a smile on my face and with inclusion at the heart of the gallery, I think everything should really fall into place. It's all about giving people a chance and a platform. I was very lucky to have such an inspirational figure in my life, who was my father, who really pushed and strived in order to make sure that people, regardless of their background or how they were born, if they had money, if they didn't have money, would thrive. And he was a very big example to me in how I should live my life as well. And he was all about giving people opportunity. In 1993, he ran to become president of Nigeria, which was incredible, but it was a very difficult time because there was a military dictatorship at the time. And so he ran an election in 1993 called Hope93, where the gallery gets its name. And a lot of the things that he was trying to achieve was to give people a better life and to help people, especially those who were less well off. So that's really the meaning of the gallery, and pretty personal to me, but I think it's a really nice way of showing that actually, we have all got a lot of talent, and with the right amount of nurturing and an opportunity, that talent can thrive. There are a lot of things that I like to think that I'm very good at, but there are also a lot of things that I'm not good at. And so actually hearing other people's opinion is very important to me. But I think the overriding thing that I really want to make sure that the gallery is consistent of is having a feeling that everyone is welcome, and that's underdogs. I mean, you don't need to necessarily have gone to art school, for example. There are so many ways that people feel excluded in the art world, and I think as long as I have this view that I will look at anybody's artwork, it doesn't matter where you're from, I will listen. I think that's the kind of thing that they're the foundations that I think are the most important. I think my journey is a strange one insofar as I was incredibly lucky in a lot of things that happened in my life, where I had a really loving family, I managed to go to some schools which really opened my eyes as to, what could be achieved. And through that has helped me build the foundation to where I am today. So I was lucky insofar as, I played sport at a very high level, and that in itself was incredible for me because it taught me a lot. It taught me teamwork, it taught me perseverance. You're not always going to be the best, you always have to kind of work really hard. And then in the same respects, I went to a very good university where I was probably out of my depth a lot, and that in itself taught me a lot too, having to work super hard. And so kind of where I was versus where I am now, there are a lot of things that have taken me to that path. And I think without those difficulties that I had in my life, and I alluded to my father as well, that was an incredibly difficult time in our life, where he'd won this presidential election, but he was actually imprisoned. I was 15 years old when he passed away after being in prison for 5 years. And so a lot of the hardships that I'd had have really kind of shaped where I am today. But I like to take that mentality into my life, into the gallery, where I really see a lot of positives, and I think a lot of people rallied around me. And I think the importance of when people have it really, really hard, if you're at any point in your life in a place to be impactful for other people and give people a chance and a platform, all people want to do is to be seen. So that's the kind of thing that kind of drives at the heart of the gallery. You do a venture like this and you never really know what people think. And I suppose one of the most important reactions that I'd had was actually at the opening night, really. So you kind of get a new gallery, you have new artists at varying different levels, all of them incredible. And you kind of have this self-doubt that, are you kind of good enough? And I remember thinking on the opening night, wow, people have really turned up, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people, and to me that was huge. It had so much support, not just for me and the gallery, but for the artists. And that was a huge thing as well. And also a big part of the reason I started this gallery is to make sure that people feel welcome and people come into the gallery, even though they might be a little bit intimidated by art. And the fact that we've had so many people who've come in and bought art for the first time, they've gone to a gallery for the first time. And sometimes things are very, very difficult, but they're the things that really kind of get me through it. I think the moment you are inclusive, or people see inclusive spaces, it means that things can happen, things that are doable. And especially from people who don't necessarily fit in, or they don't see themselves in Central London Gallery or in a museum. The moment you start seeing more and more people who look like you, people who are from where you're from, in spaces where they're doing well and they're thriving, the knock-on effect that has on an ecosystem, the knock-on effect that has on an individual, I think is so big. It's one of those things where, you kind of have to see something to believe it, and I think the moment you have inclusive spaces, it allows people's creativity to increase, and it's so powerful. So all those creatives out there, all those creative spaces out there, I think they have to keep doing what they're doing, especially when the impact that they have, and they might not necessarily know how big the impact is they're having at the time, but I think in the future, you can kind of look back and think, okay, you paved the way for a lot of people to just strive for greatness that they deserve. There are quite a few challenging moments. So what keeps me going through the challenging moments? And I think it's remembering why I'm doing this, and that's about that inclusion. And there are so many talented artists out there from all walks of life, and this gallery is all about talent. And when things are hard for me, I know artists also find it very hard. And so that really kind of drives me, that knowing that what I'm doing is incredibly impactful. It's not about black and white, it's not about male or female, it's getting the very, very best talent, and actually also recognizing that a lot of that talent can come from very, very weird and wonderful places. And when I have a lot of hard times, and unfortunately there are hard times, I'm ultimately an art gallery that if I don't sell paintings, this doesn't work, it doesn't happen. And what really kind of gets me through is the fact that they're all the artists, and I think everything has to be artist driven and people driven. I love and I told you so. I love the idea that artists that I've shown, the first show that they've ever had, and then artists have gone on to really, really great things, to large blue chip galleries, to world-renowned museum shows. I would really love the legacy that we have here is one of inclusion, but it's a really early spotter of talent, and that's not even the super young artists or the emerging artists. There can even be kind of mid-career artists that by far should have been much bigger than they were, but then they start getting noticed, and also creating a support network for a lot of these artists, where people, as I've kind of mentioned, have come in and bought an artist early. What that means is a lot, both for the artist but also for the collector, because the difficulty in the art world, and the reason why a lot of people don't like the art world, is because they don't feel welcome. And the fact that I'm making people feel welcome kind of opens up a huge amount of support and potential support for artists out there. So I would love the legacy of Hope93 to be one that just enables people to do what they love, whether collect, whether to come for a community, or whether to paint and have people looking and buying their artwork.